Okay, so Black Panther Wakanda Forever is now out worldwide, and in this video we're going to be breaking down the plot, ending, and how it ties in with the comics. We released a full post-credit scene breakdown yesterday, but in this video I thought I'd touch on the entire plot to bring you a full spoiler review. We might retread some of the same ground, but this will be our definite spoiler cap on Wakanda Forever. Spoilers forever from here on out, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the movie, then I highly recommend that you check out now. If you enjoy the video, please hit the thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe for breakdowns like this every day. With that out of the way, welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka your favourite colonel. We'll not get into that, but we will get into the breakdown.
Hey, little darling, don't shed no tear. No woman, no cry.
Now the movie begins with a strong focus on the death of T'Challa. Chadwick Boseman of course passed away in 2020 and this massively rocked the world and the production of the movie. Marvel was stuck between a rock and a hard place over what to do, and Ryan Coogler had to rework his entire script from the ground up. Though Namor was always going to be the villain, the initial plan was to show things from T'Challa's perspective as his kingdom was thrown into war. Instead, what we get is a story about grief, loss, and also acceptance. This is set to the backdrop of two leaders deciding how to best navigate the rest of the world, gaining the power they have. The first Black Panther ended with Wakanda stepping into the limelight and giving the rest of the world access to some of their resources. We learn this didn't include vibranium, which they worry will give the rest of Earth far too much power. Now, like the first movie, there is a scene where we see Okoye and Ramonda flying through a force field that surrounds and camouflages the kingdom. This opens differently to what's come before, allowing people to enter it easier. However, the city is still invisible from the outside, demonstrating how there's still this lack of trust. Now this gateway also provides a weakness, as it means the Talocanians can swim under it. If only the US had discovered they have submarines, but we'll move on from that. The UN wants to even the odds a bit, and early on they attempt to take the material by force. The king is dead, and because of this, they think they can basically do what they want. Weapons of mass destruction are ideas that this movie wrestles with, and there's several ways we can apply this mentality to our own world. People that don't have the resources and technology are the ones on the back foot, and this leaves them vulnerable to others. They launch secret expeditions, and we learn the Talocan also has vibranium too. Early on we meet Lake Belle's character, and she leads a diving operation into a region of the ocean where the material has been detected. This brings Namor into the fold, who has a history with humanity that we'll talk about in just a bit. Now he sees vibranium as being a gateway that people can use to lord themselves over others. It's basically the whole Twitter verification thing, but with actual consequences. Riri has a way that everyone can get checkmarks through Twitter Blue, but Namor thinks that only Z-list YouTubers should have them. Now Atlantis is also now Talocan, which I should have mentioned before, with Namor being changed up in several ways from the comic books. I just got my head around saying Namor, but there's Namor, and now my guy will be called the same thing that people made fun of me for saying. Now though he came before Aquaman, all that seems to matter these days are the movies, so it makes sense that they changed things up and gave him a completely different style to what we've seen before. Now, as for T'Challa, handling his death was always going to be difficult for the team behind this. In the build up to the movie, there were rumours that he would die in battle and go out in a blaze of glory. However, the character passes away off screen due to an unknown illness. I have seen comments online saying that Wakanda has a cure for cancer in the comics, but I don't actually think that's what's causing him to deteriorate. There's also the fact the actor died in real life, so they have to either swap the actor out or have him pass away. Personally, I think they made the right choice, and we'll talk about how this sets up the post-credit scene later. Shuri was trying to create a synthetic herb that would cure him, but sadly she doesn't get this far. Killmonger of course destroyed all the herbs in the last movie, with the final one being used to turn T'Challa into Black Panther. Now his funeral is heartbreaking due to it obviously being symbolic of the actual actor's passing, and because of this you can really feel the emotion in it. I can't think of a time where an actor's died in real life that's the head of a franchise like this, and they've also played out his characters passing on screen too. Sure, there was Paul Walker in Fast and the Furious, but that send-off was played more about him riding off into the sunset. The characters in that franchise don't really face the grief that the ones do here, with this being a central theme for the film. The movie even opens with Shuri demonstrating some of the stages of grief, and we hear her bargaining with a higher power in the goddess Bast. She says that if the goddess heals him, that she'll never question her existence again, and it's a really powerful way to open the film. Ramonda arrives and Shuri immediately asks what her brother's heart rate is, deep down knowing that he's in fact gone. The funeral is a mega event, with everyone wearing white as a celebration of his life. This spreads beyond the actors into the Marvel Studios logo, which is now awash with Chadwick Boseman's images and quotes. I'm setting a don't cry challenge right now, and if you don't get at least a little teary eye here, then you might be a replicant. This video is sponsored by Established Titles, a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping global reforestation efforts. Established Titles lets you call yourself a lady, lord, or a laird due to a traditional Scottish custom. You see, landowners used to refer to themselves as this, and Established Titles allows you to buy at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland. On top of this, it's a great way to help out the environment, as Established Titles will plant a tree with every single order. They work with global charities like One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future to help with reforestation efforts. So if you pick up a plot, you can refer to yourself as a lord, whilst also helping to preserve the picturesque woodlands of Scotland. Now, there also comes with a bit of an ego boost on top of all this environmental stuff. You can officially change your name on credit cards, plane tickets, your dating profile, whatever you want. They also give you a certificate confirming your lordship and a unique plot number that confirms your exact plot of land. Bow before Kevin's spoilers, you punk. I am the lord of this realm. Now, in addition to this, Established Titles have also told me that the first 200 people who use my link in the description below will be given a plot within walking distance of mine. It makes an amazing last minute gift, and Established Titles is actually running a massive Black Friday sale right now. Plus, if you use the code HEAVYSPOILERS, you get an additional 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/heavyspoilers to get your gifts now and help support the channel. Thanks. Now from here we get a time jump of 1 year and we see Shuri still hasn't let go. She can't burn T'Challa's robes, and this becomes something that carries a lot of symbolism. The film culminates with her finally doing this, and symbolically it shows her moving on from his death. After this, Nakia brings her and T'Challa's son to meet her, and the burning of the robes, with the entrance of this character, shows how she's passed from one chapter of life to the next and become an auntie. Now it's during the scene in which she initially refuses to burn the clothing that we're introduced to Namor.
Stop! Right there! Who are you? And how did you get in here?
This place is amazing. The air is pristine. And the water. My mother told stories about a place like this. A protected land with people that never have to leave, that never have to change who they were. What reason do you have to reveal your secret to the world?
I am not a woman who enjoys repeating herself. Who are you?
I have many names. My people call me Talocan, but my enemies call me Namor.
Now he wants the person responsible for creating the vibranium tracking device and believes that the Wakandans should find this scientist because of T'Challa's prior actions. Due to him telling the world about vibranium, it's sort of created a power struggle, and he's now seen as being the one who's responsible. After this, he leaves him with a shell device that can communicate with the Talocanians, and we get a discussion over what should happen in the Wakandan throne room. This features the last performance of Dorothy Steele, who too sadly passed away during the production of this movie. Now there's a couple of nice little Easter eggs laced throughout the opening of the movie, and the first one of these that I want to discuss is the AI. Shuri makes her own, and I'm guessing that this comes from Vision. She studied the Mind Stone in Infinity War, and the AI appears like yellow stone, which of course links back to that. The stone combined Ultron, Jarvis, Tony and Bruce's personalities along with Vision's, and it seems like she created one when building the new tech. There's also news reports with Anderson Cooper, and along the bottom we can see a mention of Scott Lang's book. This is called Look Out for the Little Guy, and if you've seen the leaked D23 trailer for Quantum Mania, which you're bad boy, then you'll know that he reads this at one point. Later on, we also see one discussing New Asgard, which is of course building off the back of Thor Love and Thunder. Now with a little help from Everett Ross, Shuri and Okoye are pointed to Boston, which is where they meet Riri Williams.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Hustle paid the price. All my life, grinding all my life.
She debuted all the way back in Invincible Iron Man Volume 3 Issue 7, and Riri is a genius that gained early admission to MIT. She stands as one of the smartest minds in the Marvel Universe, and we of course know that she's getting a Disney Plus show. In the source material, she built her own suit of armor using outdated Iron Man parts, and also things that she picked up in the scraps of MIT. This led to security trying to confront her, only for her to escape in a Model 1 suit, which is similar to Tony's Mark 1. And the movie changes things up a bit, as she's basically using leftover car parts. She also has a heart-shaped arc reactor, and if you look at her suit at the end, then you might notice the way the shoulders are positioned it makes a little heart shape. She also has a scene similar to Iron Man's first flight, where the altitude gets to her and causes her to fall from the sky. Now, after a big chase/fight scene with the government and Talocanians, Shuri and Riri are taken to the underwater kingdom. On the surface, Okoye is stripped of her title, and Ramonda goes to meet Nakia out in Haiti. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the credit scene reveals that she and T'Challa had a son together who is also called T'Challa. Both she and his father agreed that they didn't want him being exposed to the world at this point in his young life. Knowing that he would be dying, the burden of royalty would be even more intense at such a young age, and therefore they ended up hiding him away. This is another reason why Nakia didn't go to the funeral, because she would have to take him with her, and this would end up revealing him. Nakia and young T'Challa had their own ceremony for him in Haiti, and he's remained there ever since that. Now, I've seen people agreeing and disagreeing with this decision, and I think that no matter what Marvel did, it would have annoyed someone. The real-life death of an actor is something that's so difficult to handle, and I think even if they'd recast him, it would have brought up comparisons to Chadwick, and yeah, it's just so hard to navigate. I think this was probably the best thing they could have done, and yeah, like I said, if you completely recast him, you run the risk of that actor not living up to Chadwick, or making it seem like he was easily replaceable. I know there have been recasts in the MCU, and that William Hurt is getting one in his passing with Harrison Ford, but yeah, there's no playbook for this thing or way that they can basically please everyone. The way it plays out, I view him as being as someone who can live out the original planned stories for T'Challa without it necessarily erasing what's come before. Instead, it's carrying on his legacy, and it allows Shuri to be the Black Panther for some time before she hands over the mantle. Now, due to the Fox merger, Disney also now own the rights to the X-Men as well. A while back, there was some disappointment that T'Challa was with Nakia, rather than being with Storm like how he is in the comics. However, this T'Challa could grow up and marry her, and with the X-Men movies still being some time off, they could bring in a younger Storm and have them grow up alongside each other. Now, we also learn that young T'Challa has been going under the name Toussaint. This could actually be a nod to Toussaint Louverture, who was a Haitian general that fought for the country's independence. I think that's why Shuri says there's a lot of history with his name, and if that's the case, it's also a nice addition to his character. Anyway, total side tangent there, and after they've just been captured, we see that Namor, he's actually a nice guy. He's a pretty nice guy. Now, the backstory is filled in, and we learn that centuries ago, his people found a magical herb that could heal him. Namor's mother was pregnant with him when she took it, and this somewhat altered his physiology. You see the herb, I'm going to say herb, I say herb to pander to Americans, but I'm just going to say herb. The herb kind of has a double side to it, and those that take it wake up somewhat reborn. They start to gravitate towards the water, and this could somewhat be tied in with our own evolution. Life on the planet came from the sea, and they get cravings to return to the water. Herbs, of course, massively played into Black Panther, and Shuri ends up using the Talocan one in order to complete her synthetic one. Much in the same way that one helped to advance Wakanda, we also see how Talocan is a mirror of it. Similar to the kingdom, it too had vibranium, and along with the herb, both these civilizations advanced. Now, I loved exploring Talocan along with Namor, and they have changed it up from Atlantis like how it is in the source material. Aquaman, of course, made over $1 billion, and though he and Namor are very similar in the comics, they changed him up here so he's distinctive from his DC counterpart. Namor has been confirmed to be over 500 years old, and he's also been nicknamed the Boy Without Love. I heard from one of my sources that there's a deleted scene where someone asks him, "What is love?" and he says, "Baby, don't hurt me, Namor."
So dry your tears, I said.
As a character, Namor was introduced all the way back in 1939 before Marvel had even been founded. He debuted in the Motion Pictures Funny Weekly issue 1, where we watched Ernest Shackleton on a deep sea voyage, similar to what happened with Lake Bell, who, no idea what she's called, and I apologise for that. Now, along the way, he unearthed Namor, which is what he's called in the comics, and he ended up fighting against the Nazis in World War II after German divers were discovered near Atlantis. He fought alongside Captain America and the original Human Torch, but obviously they don't have that backstory here. He's fought against the Fantastic Four, and he's normally an anti-hero that has no problem working with and also against the good guys. I can see him being brought in with the Fantastic Four in the future, and in the comics he's a major Sue Storm simp that could end up sliding in the 838 universe's DMs now she's officially a single mother. He's also been a member of the Illuminati.
The Illuminati?
But the group were pretty crap, and in Civil War they ended up falling apart like 838 Reed Richards.
See you, chump.
Namor is said to be a mutant in the movie, which again... We already have the Deadpool 3 announcement that will see Hugh Jackman returning as Wolverine, and therefore they are slowly starting to come in the MCU with Miss Marvel being the first acknowledged one. I kinda get the feeling that we're building towards Avengers vs X-Men once the whole Secret Wars stuff is over, and the movie actually gives a nod to that graphic novel. In it, Namor attacks Wakanda with a tidal wave, which is to something that ends up happening in the film. Whether we get the stuff with the Fantastic Four down the line remains to be seen, and I just hope that they don't water down the potential for the character. Now, Namor's mother dies sometime after they build a life under the water, and they return to the surface so that she can be buried on the land. However, here they discover that in the time between, the people have been colonized. Namor destroys the foes there, and this is why he carries a hatred for humanity. Just don't let him see the internet, yeah? Ultron took one look at Twitter, and he said, "F it, these guys gotta go." Now, under the sea, he built a kingdom, and this has gone under the radar for several decades. Whether this links in with the underwater earthquake mentioned in Endgame is something we don't get confirmed, but I'm pretty sure it does. Marvel sometimes they don't like to handhold people, but looking back at that scene with Okoye, I'm guessing that they're linked. Namor fears that a war with the surface is inevitable, and he wants to form an alliance with Wakanda when the time comes.
Do you want to form an alliance with me?
However, Riri gotta go. Shuri refuses this, but maybe you could have just called She-Hulk and got her to rewrite the entire MCU. Now during this time, Namor shows Shuri around, and we see the underwater tunnels that the Talocanians use to travel around under the sea. My man is a charmer, so I can see how he laid pipe, and the entire kingdom is such a cool addition to the MCU. Nakia is tasked with saving the captives, but it looks like an attack by Wakanda due to her killing a god. Now because of this, Namor feels like it was wrong to trust Wakanda, so he declares war on the nation. Wakanda is attacked by giant waves and several of Namor's forces. This leads to the death of Ramonda, who sadly dies while saving Riri from the same fate. Really emotional gut punch to the film, and there's of course a ton of Oscar buzz around her performance, which is so cool to see. Marvel Phase 4 needs a win, and with this being the last film of this stage, I'm hoping it at least goes out on a high. It could flood the Oscars. Hell. Now, a big thing that we discover in the film is that Everett Ross and Val are in fact married. Never would have put them together, and I kinda wish he'd stayed waking up at the crack of dawn. Hey, one for the UK heads. Now, Ross has been giving intel to Wakanda, and his ex-wife has him arrested after the Queen's death. The movie ends with him being broken out of prison by Okoye, and his next appearance will be in Secret Invasion. He's working with Nick Fury to try and oust the Hidden Scrolls and the government, and as Val is also in Secret Invasion in the comics, I think we can sort of make some theory times over what's going on there. Now, in the comics, it was revealed that Val was actually a Skrull that was masquerading as her. So it wasn't really Val, but it was in fact a Skrull. It was her and Nick Fury that were getting it on, and she tried to kill him, but he did it first, which is when it was revealed that she was actually a shapeshifter. This is what clued him into the invasion as well, and potentially they've switched things up with Ross here to make it so that he discovers it. On top of this, we also have the potential that we'll be getting a Midnight Angels tie-in. There's long been rumours that we'll be getting a Disney Plus series based on them. With them being brought into the mainstream here, it could be setting that up. Now we also know that Val is gonna form the Thunderbolts and that she will lead the group in the MCU. In case you don't know, they're basically Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad. They're more anti-heroes here than out-and-out villains like they are in the comics, but it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with the characters going forward. Anyway, after the death of Ramonda, Shuri ends up continuing her work on the synthetic herb. Killmonger of course destroyed all the real ones in the first movie, and the final one was used to give T'Challa his strength back. She finally develops this, and upon taking it, she travels to the ancestral plane. Here we get a Space Jam legacy cameo with Michael B. Jordan. Killmonger is here, and not T'Challa, because at this point mentally, Shuri has the potential to be a cruel and ruthless leader just like him. This leads to a great exchange between the two, and though a Killmonger cameo was one of the obvious things that we'd be getting in the movie, it's still great seeing his return. Shuri goes back empowered and she makes a new suit. The Wakandans have retreated to M'Baku's in the mountains because waves can't go that high, and M'Baku knows that his people view Namor as a god. Killing him will lead to more bloodshed, and basically, it's not really a road that they want to travel down.
People did not call him general or king. They called him Kukulkan, the feather serpent god. Killing him will risk eternal war.
Now this is a giant water serpent, and the design of this can be seen in his headdress. Shuri doesn't care though, as she's lost her father, brother, mother and kingdom. Realizing that Namor gets his strength from the water, they decide to dehydrate him, which takes us into the finale. Using a giant ship on the water, they lure Namor into a moisture trap device that makes the king drip. As we know, Prince Andrew is the only royal family member who doesn't sweat, and therefore this thirst trap works on him. In the comics, the Atlanteans can only survive out of water for a matter of minutes, which is why they have to wear the breathing apparatus. However, Namor is a mutant, which is why he doesn't carry the blue skin they do. He can breathe oxygen, but he still requires water to survive. The ship crashes on a deserted beach, and Shuri ends up fighting him. Namor stabs her at one point, making it seem like she might die, but remembering her time on the astral plane, she uses Killmonger's words to push her through. Shuri wins and has him bested, but she realizes that if she kills him, it will set her down a darker path. This escalates things with Talocan even more and pushes her past the point of no return. The cycle of revenge will begin, and in an Abby and Ellie moment, she decides not to go through with it. Shuri talks about vengeance consuming them after seeing a vision of Ramonda, and this line of course links back to the ending of Civil War. In that, T'Challa said something similar to Zemo, and he refused to let vengeance consume him, just like Shuri does here. The pair form a truce, and Namor goes to lead his people. All the ones that died at this point probably will feel a bit gutted, but the two sides kneel to their leaders. Namor does get questioned at one point whether this makes him seem weak, like a sort of King Viserys, but my man says he's not armless, and I have to hand it to him, he hasn't fallen off. Sorry, that's a leftover House of the Dragon joke, but one day they realise either they'll need Wakanda or Wakanda will need them. So finally, they form that alliance, yes. Now there are a couple of extra things we see happening at the end. M'Baku goes to the waterfall once more, like how he did in the first movie, and with Shuri not showing up, surely this means that he's now the king. Now Shuri also fixes up Riri's car, and she sends her back to Boston minus the suit. This could explain why she ends up having to build her own, and we'll likely see that playing out in the Disney Plus series. Now Shuri visits Nakia and Haiti, where she finally burns the white clothes on the beach and says goodbye. This is when we meet T'Challa's son, and discover that Ramonda met him too. Though T'Challa is gone, his legacy will continue. We're unsure what's happening next in the Wakanda saga, but we now have a current Queen and Black Panther along with an heir who can come in and take the mantle down the line. Not a dry eye in the house for this scene, unless you've got a heart made of stone, and that ends the movie, and I'm not crying.
And when I wake up,
As for my opinion on the film, the first thing I thought when leaving the movie was, is this better than Best Picture nominee Black Panther? I think I probably enjoyed it more, but I think that original film definitely had more high moments. This felt more solid overall, but it suffered from the third act problem that a lot of Marvel movies do. The setup and character studies early on are way more interesting for me than the final fights that Marvel have, which tend to devolve into just CGI action scenes. You can tell the pandemic affected the VFX here too, as there's some really bad green screen along with the Ironheart helmet tracking that just seems off when it unmasks. They're minor criticisms, but the more simple fight on the beach was way more impactful to me than the big army versus army one on the boat. Obviously action scenes like this are something that everyone feels like they have to include in these movies, but I think the best parts are the character studies. Talocan was incredible to see play out, and the Killmonger ancestral plane scene elevated the movie so much. Seeing Shuri trying to get over her brother's death is one of the strongest character arcs in the MCU, as she feels like a failure due to not finding a cure. She's constantly pushed to the point of breaking, and Letitia Wright handles the material really well. She can do both the humorous and dramatic scenes with ease, and though Angela is getting the Oscar talk, I actually think that Letitia should too. Now, Angela is incredible as well, and Dominique Thorne makes a great debut as Riri. I like Namor too, and there's a real human level to him beneath all the bravado. Now, Disney are constantly going on about representation, and in the lead up to the movie, they made a big point of saying how Aneka and Ayo were in a relationship together. It's one of the things they pushed to the forefront of the promotion of the film, but it's also clear that this was one of the first things they cut. I feel like Disney are just throwing bones to the gay community to try and get them to feel like they're being seen, but to me, this studio needs to either do it properly or stop promoting it like they're so progressive when they literally had a forehead kiss and Ayo calling her my love. I'm not gay, so if you are and disagree, let me know below, but I think if it was me, I'd feel like they're not doing a good enough job. They pat themselves on the back so much about it, and though it's another nitpick, I just think, why are you guys bigging yourself up when you've really done nothing? This happened with Rise of Skywalker and Lightyear as well, and it seems like they're doing it to use it as a talking point to promote the movie to gay people, rather than doing it because they want to make actual stories involving them. Also, I recognise I'm a white guy reviewing this movie, so it might not speak to me as much as it speaks to you. I know there's going to be people that love it, and as a tribute, I think it works really well. As a movie, it's also pretty good, and it is one of the stronger Phase 4 films. Where it ranks amongst the other MCU films, though, this doesn't crack the top 10 for me, and I don't know whether it's a movie that I'm going to race back to watch. I've seen it twice now, so obviously I did race back to watch it, but that was for these videos, and both times I laughed and cried, but the length dulled those emotions a bit instead of sticking with me throughout. It had a really good start and a really good final few scenes, with the middle sort of being your standard MCU affair. Your mileage may vary, and everyone's going to have their own thoughts, with this no doubt being another divisive MCU movie. I'm scoring it a 7.5. You know what? I might move it up to an 8, but I'm sort of in that zone. It's in that zone. And let me know your thoughts on the film below. Now, we are in competition right now and giving away 3 copies of Top Gun Maverick on the 15th of November. And all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the film. We pick the comments at random on the 15th, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, make sure you check out our breakdown of the post-credit scene, which is going to be linked on screen right now. We talk about what was originally, well, apparently meant to be in the film, what the ending means, and also just touch upon little things where we think the MCU is going to be going. With out of the way, hope you enjoy your weekend, you take care of yourself, I'll see you next time. Peace. Also, don't hate me for giving it a 7/8 out of 10, yeah? Please, I'm begging.